Communications Nomvula Mokonyane is currently briefing the media on the outcomes of the cabinet meeting held yesterday in Cape Town. Let's cross live.
Make their inputs during this process of engagement, which will guide the solutions to take our country forward. As a caring and people-centered government, all stakeholders will be engaged during this process, and we also commit to make sure that we will appreciate any feedback that can enhance the approach towards land utilization, both for agriculture as well as for property ownership, particularly in the urban areas, without antagonizing one another. Cabinet further urges communities to desist from illegal land invasions. We are a law-abiding and peace-loving country with adequate mechanisms of dealing with issues, including the land issue. South Africa remains open for business and investments in agriculture and farming. It is in South Africa's interest to have commercial farmers, and this process can ensure we have even greater numbers of successful commercial farmers, but also transformed property ownership patterns. The Nofingana Communities Double Drift Wildlife Economy Project. Cabinet welcomes the launch of the Nofingana Communities Double Drift Wildlife Economy Project. At Double Drift Nature Reserve in the Eastern Cape, this project was launched by Minister of Environmental Affairs, Minister Edna Molewa. This included the handing over of the title deed to the Listeriosis Communal Property Association on behalf of the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform, Ms. Maite Nkwana-Mashabane. The Double Drift community were dispossessed of their residential and grazing rights by the 1913 Land Act. In 1994, this community lodged a land claim which was settled in 2012, resulting in Listeriosis Communal Property Association being established. The Listeriosis CPA consists of 1,500 Double Drift community members and has received 6 million rands from the Department of Environmental Affairs to develop a wildlife economic business venture in the farm Nodes Hook. The transaction was processed through the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. On the VBS Mutual Bank, Cabinet has noted the South African Reserve Bank's announcement with regard to the VBS Mutual Bank. The appointed curatorship is expected to give support to the VBS Mutual Bank and assist in restoring its liquidity challenges, and so as to serve the interests of the public and, in particular, VBS depositors. Cabinet remains committed to the diversification and transformation of the financial sector without jeopardizing interests of the depositors. On the investment campaign, Cabinet welcomes the CEO's No campaign by Brand South Africa in collaboration with business leadership of South Africa to promote South Africa as an investment destination. This builds on our world-class infrastructure through Invest SA one-stop shop, research and development capabilities, innovation, and an established manufacturing base to support investors. New growth areas have also been opened in the oceans economy, renewable energy, the green economy, and shale gas exploration. The campaign features CEOs from multinational corporations based in South Africa, sharing their insights on continued investments in South Africa. Cabinet encourages all South Africans, in the spirit of Tumamina, sweeping across our nation, to play their part by sharing their positive stories to build our country's reputation and grow its investment appeal. On the IPPs, Cabinet has noted the High Court case filed by 2 non-governmental organizations regarding government's decision to sign the power purchase agreements with 27 IPPs. The matter will be concluded by the High Court on the 27th of March 2018. In the spirit of constitutionalism and the rule of law, the signing has been postponed. Cabinet affirms the commitment to resolve the matters around such programs. These projects will provide, as it has been presented to Cabinet, 61,600 full-time jobs, 95% of which are for South African citizens, specifically targeting young people. Cabinet reaffirms its commitment to a solid public-private partnership as we pursue our energy transition objectives of the future and a better life for all. This is needed to bring much-needed policy and regulatory certainty and maintain South Africa's position as an energy investment destination of choice. And once more, in the spirit of Tumamina and partnership, including collaboration, the Department of Energy will continue to engage with critical stakeholders, particularly organized labor, communities that may be affected, youth organizations, as well as any other interested party, to ensure that we find one another in the pursuance of growing our economy in a much more inclusive manner without undermining the concerns that have been raised by organized labor. On Listeriosis, Cabinet extends its heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of those who lost their lives after contracting Listeriosis, and wishes those who are recuperating a speedy recovery. More than 180 people died, and 940 cases were reported in South Africa. Cabinet is encouraged by the intensive efforts of the Department of Health, the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, and the World Health Organization to stop the Listeria bacteria from spreading. To further strengthen these efforts, the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, will meet with the South African Nursing Council on Thursday, the 15th of March 2018. Cabinet acknowledges that the positive progress made in identifying and isolating the source of the deadly Listeriosis outbreak and subsequent recall of food products from 3 enterprise and rainbow meat processing plants where the bacteria was found was a defining moment to stop the outbreak. The foodborne disease was first identified in June 2017. Listeriosis is a serious and preventable illness that can be treated successfully with antibiotics. Those most at risk are pregnant mothers, very young infants, elderly persons, and people with a weakened immune system. People who show symptoms of fever, muscle aches, nausea, or diarrhea should visit their medical practitioner or local clinic immediately. Cabinet is optimistic that South Africa will defeat the current outbreak and urges all people to observe the 5 food safety rules during this time. Wash hands with soap and water before handling food and after using of a bathroom. Cook food thoroughly and do not eat half-cooked food, as the Listeria bacteria will die when food is well cooked. Do not handle raw and cooked food together. Keep food at appropriate temperatures and make sure that all milk products are pasteurized or at least parboiled, and wash non-cooked food with clean running water before ingestion or at least with pre-boiled water. Those with any uncertainty related to listeriosis may contact the National Institute for Communicable Diseases on 011-386-6400, 011-386-6400. On the SASSA matter related to social grants, Cabinet was briefed on the state of readiness by the South African Social Security Agency to provide the hybrid model in the distribution of social grants to beneficiaries on the 1st of April 2018. This is in line with the Constitutional Court judgment that ordered the extension of the current contract with the Cash Pay Master Services up until the 31st of March 2018. Cabinet reiterates its commitment to government social assistance program, which is at the heart of our poverty alleviation initiatives and central to restoring the dignity of our people. Cabinet is satisfied that the beneficiaries of social grants will be paid from the 1st of April 2018 without any glitches. The current SASSA cards remain valid until December 2018. The process of changing the beneficiary cards will be done in a seamless manner that will not disrupt the payment of grants. All beneficiaries who receive their grants through their respective pay points, which includes commercial banks, the South African Post Office, and other retailers, would also be assisted. Cabinet calls on those who do not have bank accounts to visit their nearest post office branches to open their accounts. Cabinet has instructed the SASSA, together with GCIS, to do everything possible to inform all the beneficiaries of any possible changes that may take place in the process of transition from CPS to the new hybrid model. Cabinet remains committed to ensuring government adheres to the Concord judgment. SASSA offices will be open and ready to process the new applicants. Cabinet urges all members of the public, especially beneficiaries and their families, to contact SASSA on 0800 601011 or visit the nearest SASSA office for more information. On voter registration, Cabinet joins the Independent Electoral Commission and President Ramaphosa in thanking all South Africans who heeded the call to register to vote or to update their address details in the past weekend's voter registration drive. Excuse me. This is a milestone that we all have actually been striving for in preparation for the 6th national and provincial elections expected to take place in 2019. A total of 2.8 million citizens visited voting stations over the past weekend. Of the 2.8 million plus voters who visited their voting stations, just over 1.3 million re-registered in their current voting districts. More than 800,000 changed their registration to a new voting district. Almost 500,000 were votes registering for the first time. And of the new voter registrations, 82% were under the age of 30 and approximately 52% were women. The province of Gauteng saw the most new registrations of 23.7%, followed by KwaZulu-Natal with 18.8% and Limpopo with 17%. The Eastern Cape had the highest level of registration at 87%, followed by the Free State at just over 82%, and KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo and Northern Cape at 79%. Gauteng's overall registration is at 67.3%. The IEC reported that the voters' roll now stands at 26.2 million voters, which roughly equates to 75% of the eligible voting population based on Statistics South Africa voting age population estimates. About 300,000 citizens who visited voting stations are among the almost 2.8 million voters for whom the IEC did not have an address going into the weekend. An up-to-date and accurate voters' roll affirms the credibility of the voters' roll and strengthens our democracy by ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. Cabinet calls on all South Africans who were not able to visit their local voting stations over the past weekend to visit their local IEC office or their municipalities to verify and complete their addresses. Alternatively, use the IEC's online facilities and the app that remains available 24 hours a day for registered voters to check and update their address details. Cabinet joins the Minister of Sport and Recreation, Minister Thoko Xhasa, in denouncing the barbaric act of violence against a young triathlete, Mhlengi Gwala, who was attacked with a chainsaw while cycling in KwaZulu-Natal. Cabinet wishes the athlete a speedy recovery and extends a warm thank you to the medical team of St. Augustine Hospital who are caring for him. Crime has no place in our society, and Cabinet calls on communities to work together with law enforcement agencies to bring the criminals to book. Under the leadership of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Zweli Mkhize, government has declared a national state of disaster to deal with the country's drought and water crisis. Cabinet extends its appreciation to those in South Africa who continue to save water and the relentless efforts made by the Interministerial Committee on Drought together with stakeholders in all spheres of government and society, in dealing with the persistent drought conditions that have hit several parts of our country. Apart from the fact that South Africa is a water-scarce country, Cabinet is assured that we remain a preferred choice of destination for tourists. On decisions taken in Cabinet, Cabinet approved that the agreement annexure of the Southern African Development Community SADC Protocol on Finance and Investment be tabled in Parliament for ratification. The purpose of this is to harmonize financial and investment policies of SADC member states so that they are consistent with the objectives of SADC. This will ensure that any changes to financial and investment policies in one member state does not necessitate undesirable adjustments in other member states. The aim of the amendments are to preserve the right of governments to regulate in the public interest and to balance the rights and obligations of investors and government. Cabinet approved the tabling of the revised and renamed United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners in Parliament. The renaming of the Standard Minimum Rules to Nelson Mandela Rules honors the legacy of former president who spent 27 years in prison. There's also been a worldwide extension of the Nelson Mandela International Day scope observed by the UN member states on 18 July to promote humane conditions of imprisonment, raise awareness about prisoners being a part of society, and value the work of prison staff as a social service. The rules will assist South Africa to speed up transformation towards a people's developmental correctional system that is consistent with various international principles and guidelines. On the bills that were presented in Cabinet, Cabinet approved submission of the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill of 2018 in Parliament. This bill aims to create the offences of hate crimes and hate speech and to put in place measures to prevent and combat these offences. It intends to address violence against persons on the basis of prejudice. It will also give effect to South Africa's obligations in terms of international human rights instruments. Cabinet approved for the ICAMVA National E-Skills Institute Bill 2018 to be submitted to Cabinet, to Parliament, I beg your pardon. The bill provides for the establishment of INESI as a legal entity with its own legislation to address e-skills, which are the digital skills capacity challenges in South Africa. Capacity development of e-skills is seen as of the priority areas of government in building an inclusive economy and to establish a capable and a developmental state. This institute will act as a national catalytic collaborator as well as a change agent for the development of digital skills and organizational capacity in South Africa. Cabinet approved the introduction of the Hydrographic Bill of 2018 in Parliament. The bill seeks to recognize and grant legislative status to the Office of the Hydrographer, which has been in existence in the Department of Defense since the inception of hydrographic services in South Africa. This is actually located in the South African Navy. It will enable the hydrographer of the South African Navy to be recognized as the national hydrographer. It will ensure that the provision of hydrographic services is formalized and enacted into law. This is in line with the International Maritime Organization and the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, which is an international maritime treaty that sets minimum safety standards in the construction, equipment, and operation of merchant ships. On the upcoming events, the 2018 National Human Rights Month commemorations will be held under the theme, The Year of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, promoting, and deepening a human rights culture across society. The national event will take place on the 21st of March 2018 at George Tabe Cricket Pitch in Sharpeville, Vereeniging in Gauteng. Cabinet urges all sectors to pay homage to this National Day, which celebrates South Africa's human rights tradition and honors people such as Madiba, who paid the ultimate price, as well as those selfless South Africans who were massacred in Sharpeville and other parts of South Africa, sacrificing for the achievement of the liberation and freedom that we enjoy. The National Imbizo Focus Week will take place from the 9th to the 15th of April under the theme Together We Move South Africa Forward. This year, the Mandela Centenary celebrations forms a big part of the Focus Week under the sub-theme Be the Legacy. The executive will be engaging with communities in various parts of the country. The respective programs of ministers will be communicated in due course through the diary of events of the Cabinet. On youth employment, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to launch the pilot of the Youth Employment Services Initiative at the River Sands Hub in Diepsloot on the 27th of March 2018. This initiative, in collaboration with the private sector, aims to empower 1 million young people over the next 5 years to become economically active, either as a member of the workforce or running their own businesses or finding their passion for further study. President Cyril Ramaphosa will undertake working visits to the Republic of Mozambique and the Republic of Zimbabwe, respectively, on Saturday, the 17th March 2018. The visits will mainly focus on strengthening bilateral relations with the above-mentioned countries. The President will also exchange views on peace and security matters in the region and the continent and further deliberate on global issues of mutual interest. Cabinet congratulates Ntsiki Biyela, South Africa's first black woman winemaker who launched her own brand. With a degree in viticulture from Stellenbosch University plus 13 years working experience, her Aslina wines will in 2018 sell 12,000 bottles in the USA, Germany, Taiwan, and Ghana. Cabinet congratulates Caster Semenya on breaking the South African 1,000 meters record that stood for 35 years at the Athletics Grand Prix meeting held at Tex in Pretoria. Caster won the race in a time of 2 hours, 35 minutes and 44 seconds, beating the old, 2 minutes, yes. Thank you that you are alert. 2 minutes, 35 seconds, beating the old record set in 1983 by Elise Wicksell by almost 2 seconds. Cabinet also commends Semenya for fulfilling her long-held goal to get a university degree when she completed her diploma in sports science at the Northwest University in Potch. Cabinet expresses our sincere condolences to the friends and families of Honorable Member of Parliament, Comrade Loliwa Fezeka, who was killed in a car crash in the Eastern Cape last week as she was busy doing her constituency work. Cabinet also sends condolences to the loved ones of South Africa's ambassador to Sweden, Ms. Faith Radebe, who passed on Tuesday, the 13th March 2018. She was previously the Inspector General of Intelligence in South Africa. All appointments are subject to the verification of qualifications and relevant clearance. The first appointment is that of Dr. Philemon Mjwaga as Director General of the Department of Science and Technology for an extended contract period of 3 years, commencing on the 1st of April 2018. Second one is that of Ms. Memme Sijosingwe as Secretary General at the Office of the Chief Justice for an extended contract period of 3 years, effective from the 1st of April 2018. The third one is of Ms. Tuli Ikhatebe as Executive Director at the Center of Public Service Innovation for an extended contract period of 6 months. The fourth one is of Mr. Tilivali Archibald Ramawa as the Chief Financial Officer of the National Electronic Media Institute of South Africa. And the fifth one is that of the Board of Centec, Mr. Makhatumilo, the reappointment as a non-executive director, Mr. Lumkom Tinde and Dr. Sandile Malinga, as well as Ms. Elizabeth Malaka. On the board of broadband Infraco, Mr. Mandla Ngobo, his reappointment as a non-executive director and the chairperson, Ms. Noktula Silamulela, her reappointment as a non-executive director, Mr. Gift Mpefu, a non-executive director, Ms. Zandile Matilda Kabini, a non-executive director, and lastly Ms. Jennifer Schreiner, a non-executive director. On the board of SAPO, Mr. Comfort Ngidi, his reappointment as chairperson, Ms. Nomatlubi Simamane, reappointment as deputy chair, Advocate Juliana Khalitlani Rasitaba as non-executive director, and Dr. Charles Nwaila, non-executive director. That brings us to the end of the cabinet briefing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Can we take questions? I think I'll start with Cape Town this time. Linda, Paul, Lindsay, Tabo, in that order.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Linda Engel, Business Day. We were reporting in Business Day this morning that Cabinet had discussed the position of the Commissioner of SARS, Tom Mayani, and his removal, and his replacement was an interim commissioner. You could comment please on that. And also, I understand that Minister Javier has resent the RRP back to Cabinet for reprocessing. If you could perhaps comment on the reasons for that and what is being reconsidered. And just thirdly, on the processing by Cabinet of the liquor bill, what is your view on the complete ban of all alcohol advertising that is proposed by the Department of Health and its effect on the media sector as Minister of Communications? Thank you.
Paul?
I've largely covered, Paul Beckyard from Bloomberg, largely covered. Just has Cabinet been notified or informed on any changes in the SARS top leadership? Thank you.
Okay, I think yes, please.
Lindsay Denklinger, Eyewitness News. Just with regard to the SASA matter, while Cabinet was being briefed yesterday, at the same time officials from the agency was telling a portfolio committee that it won't have a cash service provider up and running by July. There's still the court case outstanding. So on what basis is Cabinet so convinced? How did you determine that you're satisfied that there will be no glitches when there are also the matter of a contingency plan that hasn't been costed, haven't quite worked out how that will all work out if they were to have to transport people to get their grants at pay points? If you could just elaborate how Cabinet comes to its conclusion that it's satisfied given that there are all these outstanding issues that still have to be clarified.
Thank you. Tabo, you're the last.
Thank you. My name is Thabo Mokonyane. I work for the Sunday Times. I'm largely covered by Linda's questions, but I would add to say on the liquor bill, has anyone at the SABC, be it executives or the board, raised the financial implications of the liquor bill, specifically on the public broadcaster? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Minister, should I take the Pretoria or you want to respond? Okay, Pretoria, can we take?
We don't have questions at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Just to summarize on all SARS-related matters, none of these issues were brought before Cabinet, either through the Acting Minister of Finance or through... Yes, the Minister is abroad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it excites, eh? Yes. Yes, none of these issues were actually brought before Cabinet, and therefore they could not actually be discussed. If Minister Khatebe has redirected the issues around the IPP to be submitted to Cabinet, it means they will serve in the next Cabinet. On the SASSA issues, the Interministerial Committee has been hard at work trying to deal with these issues. Initially, the indication was that those that may be affected with regard to cash payments are in the tune of 2.8 million. But with the work that has been done under the stewardship of the Interministerial Committee, those numbers have actually gone down to around 800,000. It's around 700, 800. Yes.
Oh, well, there we have it. First post-cabinet meeting from new Minister Nomvula Mokonyane. Of course, what had been discussed yesterday in Cape Town, touching on issues of voter registration as well as the issues between CPS and SASSA, urging all beneficiaries to make sure that they do get a bank account if they don't have one at the South African Post Office, and also ensuring that beneficiaries will indeed receive their grants come the 1st of April, touching on issues of Listeriosis as well as the independent power producers and the agreement thereof. We do know that that has been postponed, and also touching on issues of economic growth, agriculture, as well as the hydrographics bill that has now been agreed upon and put into place with regards to the Navy. Nomvula Mokonyane also touched on the land issue, of course, condemning illegal land invasion, and currently it's just a Q&A question, also hearing there that no issues around SARS had been discussed as the Finance Minister is out of the country. With that being said, let's have a look at your top stories.